Good morning, everybody. Peter Lawrence here, King Price Engineering. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, I think this is just a follow-up on our first session, part one. We will be discussing the insurance solutions. Um, so before I get into that, I think it's important to, just continually discuss and make, the awareness of how to prevent COVID. Just some tips. So always wear a face mask out in public. Wash your hands with soap or alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. And then also cover your cough or sneeze with flexed elbow or tissue, and then throw the tissue in the bin. Clean and disinfect frequently used surfaces and objects. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm gonna go straight into it, just to give you a brief on what we'll discussing today. So we'll be discussing surrounding property, public liability, SARS, and also we'll have some claim scenarios, two of them, and also at the end we'll have before the questions, we'll just have the role of a broker, the importance thereof. So yeah, let's kick off. Last week, just to recap, we did the CAR, which is the contractors orders policy, and this week we're just gonna speak about the extensions, which I believe is important, and there's always confusion about the two, how they interlink. Some believe it's the same, but it's actually not. So today, we will discuss the differences between the two. Yeah, so let's kick off. So yeah, we're going to be kicking off with surrounding property. Before I do that, I just need to also, get the understanding of surrounding property correct, because there is a lot of confusion in the market, the understanding thereof, and just to give you the briefing. So surrounding property is an extension on a CAR policy, on a contractors orders policy. It's an extension whereby you have to ask for it. Some insurance will automatically include it, but to a minimum sum insured limit, not necessarily the amount that you require. However, you need to do your scope. You need to have a look at your surroundings. You have to look at what kind of properties in your care custody control during your operations, and obviously during your contract, in order for you to make a judgment and a survey, and give us the full amount there. So yeah, so let me go into the policy interpretation of surrounding property. So surrounding property, as explained there, is other than contact works or construction plant and equipment used or intended for the use of the insured contract being worked on, which is responsibility contractually or otherwise in the care, custody, and control of the contractor, and arising from or in connection with the insured contract, provided that this indemnity shall only operate to the extent that the indemnity is not obtained under any other policy of insurance affected for the benefit of the insured. So a lot of words, just in brief, you're a contractor, and you've got your scope of works that you could hand over a site, and in that site is a location. I'm just going to use a wall that you're going to be renovating. You're going to open the wall up and put a window inside, of that. Just using a contract example now, and basically that is your, so that number one, that's your work that you're going to be performing on. So your surrounding property would be anything next to it, surrounded. So there might be another wall on the left or on the right, and you might have closed up the wall, put in the window, and now it's time for you to paint. However, on your right hand side is a 1 million rand painting, Picasso example, and as you busy painting on your wall, closing it down, and you might just have a few paint drops go onto the painting on your wall on your right hand side. And there's your surrounding property claim right there, because it's in your care, custody, and control. Unfortunately, it doesn't form part of your contract. You weren't obviously advised, or in terms of your scope, you weren't advised to work on that particular painting or wall on your right hand side, but it does form part of your surrounding property. And that's basically surrounding property, how it works. As I said, there's a lot of confusion, in properties such as houses, malls, or offices undergo renovation or repairs. And what happens is there's existing structure. So with the existing structure, generally um, the misconception is that it will automatically be covered under the buildings policy, or it will automatically be covered under the CAR policy. But you first have to make your buildings policy insurance underwriters aware that you are going to be doing some renovations, and if they say to you, no, there is no cover, you need to cover it under the CAR, you come over to us and we will then do an extension for the surrounding property, and we will add it onto your CAR policy for you to enjoy the cover for that existing buildings. Now, there is other way around it. You can then just give us the value of your surrounding property. We can include that into your total contract value. And automatically existing building will be covered. However, we will need that sum insured, because example will be your contract limit will be, or contract value will be 1 million. That's your works that you're going to be performing. Your scope of works, your bill of quantity is for 1 million, but then your surrounding property is 5 million, example, because that's your existing structure, and you're going to want cover for that, as it is in the care custom control of the contractor. If anything happens there during the performance of the work, you'd want to have cover for that. And that's basically how the surrounding property works. Like I said, there is a confusing between the surrounding property and public liability. So our next slide will be discussing the public liability side of it. Okay, so public liability, um, it's section 2 under your CAR policy. So before, the surrounding property was an extension, where this one is it's following your section 1, which is your material damage section, your works damage section under your construction policy, your CAR policy. And I think both these covers are important to have. It doesn't matter what size of contract, it doesn't matter where you'll be working, you definitely going to need some public liability. And as it says there, the cover covers the cost that the insured will become legally liable to pay, arising out of or in connection with accidental death or bodily injury, accidental damage to third party property, and of course occurring in direct connection with the performance of your contract insured by the policy, which is the policy that you're going to be taking out, and happening on or in the immediate vicinity of the contract site during the period of insurance as specified in your schedule. So again, I mean, you just need to do a survey and see what is your public liability exposure as a contractor, and that's why it's important to have a broker or to discuss this. If you get handed over a site, you need to go out and do a survey. Look to your left, look to your right, look at what your exposures are, look at your neighbors' properties. If you've got a fire while you're busy working on your own contract site or at your contract site, you need to know what you're going to be in for on your left and your right. So for instance, example, your neighbor's property will be 3 million and on the left, and on the right will be another 10 million. Okay, so 13 million in total. That's your public liability. So that's kind of an idea that should give you an idea as to what we're talking about when it comes to liability aspects. And then again, just some facts. As you can see, defective products are the top cause of liability losses for businesses globally, accounting for 45% of the value of all claims together. Defective products and faulty workmanship maintenance account for almost 60% of the value of all claims at 58%. So, as we know, public liability claims, it's just there to cover you for those slips and trips and all of that, besides the bigger losses. And also employers liability in terms of death is excluded, unfortunately. They would have to go under COIDA. So just to also give you understanding that this liability is not necessarily for your employers, but rather for third parties, that comes on site, or even just the walk by third party, that just goes past by the site, and you might be busy working, and something might just fall on their heads. And that's the kind of claim that you can expect under the public liability. Look, obviously value scenario merits could be different at that time, but it's important that you also select and take out the public liability cover to cover you against those liability claims and, like I said, those legal claims. Yeah, as we go on to the next slide, which is SASRIA. Sazria, as you've obviously, if you've looked at the news, the papers, social media, you'd have seen a lot of Sazria posts pop up with the looting most recently. But before the looting, there was the fees must fall and all of those. Obviously that also made everybody aware that there is a need for a Sazria. There was a lot of interesting questions on, in our previous webinar that popped up. So I thought, let me have a section for Sazria and discuss this. Not obviously in full detail again, because as you know, there's a separate policy wording for Sazria now under the CAR. However, Sazria still follows the main policy. So if I've got a policy under my engineering CAR, Sazria will request the policy document, the policy schedule, and they will follow our policy wording. Before I go into Sazria, just to give you some background again, so we act as agents for Sazria. When I say we, King Price or any other insurer who then sell Sazria cover on behalf of Sazria. And again, it's an optional cover that's available. So the client, he's got an option to say yes or no. We quote and we present him with the terms. These days, it's kind of mandatory. If you look at the news again, as I said, as the claims have reached billions by now. So yeah, we in South Africa, South African Special Risk Insurance Association. I know it's also linked, and it's also in Namibia, so where they talk about Nasria. And then obviously outside of South Africa, you talk about the riot and commotion cover, or your strike and riot cover, as it is in the other countries where you can actually buy it as an extension. You can also approach Sazia directly for this type of cover. You don't necessarily have to go via insurance, and you can also request cover specific. If you are a contractor, you can also select as to which covers you want to have for your specific work that you're busy with. So yeah, so what does a Sazia cover? So Sazia will compensate you for the loss of or damage to property insured in the underlying policy, as I said earlier, if that loss or damage is directly related to or caused by any riot, strike, public disorder, or any act or activity which is calculated or directed to being about a riot, strike, or public disorder. Any act, whether on behalf of any organization, body or person, or group of persons calculated or directed to overthrow or influence any state or government, or any provincial, local, or tribal authority with force or by means of fear or terrorism, or violence. So again, I've only selected two just to give you an idea as to what the operative clause looks like. So there is obviously other clauses as well, which should you request, that is available in the wording. And then again, under the CAR section, we as the agents would quote under the relevant extensions, and we'll include all of these extensions under the sum insured, including the escalation of the contract, debit removal, fire brigade charges. There's a whole list of extensions which we quote on, and we include that in the Sazria cover, and which a coupon is then generated for you to also then see which is covered, because Sazria is very strict these days, as you can understand. They would ask for a coupon, and if you don't list the necessary extensions on that coupon and don't charge a premium, they won't be covered. They'll turn around and say, unfortunately, there's no cover, for those extensions. So it's important that you always consider those extensions under Sazria as well, because potentially your claim could be more than just your 3 million which you've insured for, or more than that contract escalation which you've also insured for. Yeah, and then very important, there was a circular in 2018 on the 14th where, as I said, the fees must fall. When that movement took place, the after that there was definitely a need for security cost, which they then added. So you get security cost. Post and imminent loss up to 10 million annually. So aggregate limited obviously cover, and only Sazria provides this particular cover. So it's more just like a prevention of loss extension. And the reason for that is obviously imminent danger. You're able to, to get in the necessary security to try and prevent. And then obviously after they've been there, you can also then secure your property with this type of cover and get in the security cost and claim that from, the security companies to then guard your property or your site. And you can claim that cost directly from Sazria. Okay, the reason for this was, if you remember correctly, when the fees must fall movement took place, and this was a couple of years ago, where they were busy at Wits University, and they were approaching Wits University, and damage. There was really damage to Wits, and and they were already on their way to UJ. So that's why I said the post and imminent loss would have covered you at UJ, where what you can do is then get the necessary security in place before they even get to UJ, and cover and protect your property. And that's what Sazria has kind of thought about and said, listen, let's try and do some loss prevention by giving the extension. And like I said, it is an annual aggregate limit, so you can't top it up. You can't reinstate the cover if you've used that 10 million in that year period or that annual period. Then unfortunately there's no cover. You have to wait until the next cycle. Okay. Okay, some claim scenarios as I've taken it. So just on a contract site, you get this general accidents. So I'll use two examples, which I think it's important. So if you accidentally drop a piece of equipment from a scaffolding, which cause injury or damage to someone or something below, which is obviously something you did, this may result in a claim. Depending on the circumstances, the claim could be for personal injury, damage to clothing, or damage to the vehicle below. So that's just an example of a claim that could occur on site. As you, as a contractor, work on site, you're on a scaffolding. You're busy installing outside geyser, and one of your tools drop onto a vehicle which is just below the property. We know the body corporates. We know what these flats are like 5, 10, 15 stories. And you're outside and you're busy installing, or even just maybe fixing or repairing a pipe, a leak pipe, or burst pipe. And that's how easy a third party claim could occur. And then obviously in terms of your policy, your CAR, your claim will then be submitted under your public liability. There's obviously an excess also applicable, which will be obviously exposed while you might be made aware of that. If it's differences, it depends on your value, your sum insured, and also the exposure to the insurers at the time of risk. And then the second claim, damage to utilities or electrical mains surrounding property, more specific, as I said earlier. So if you accidentally, drill a hole into a wall and hit the electrical wire, causing a power failure at the residential property, this may result in a claim. You could potentially have a few claim scenarios there. You could have a loss of income if it's a holiday home, which falls under the public liability section and not surrounding property. But you could also cause damage to the existing property or the existing utilities in that particular property. So that will definitely be under the surrounding property. Should you draw, again, like I said, you're working on this wall and you're drilling a hole into the wall to hang a picture, but behind that wall there is a piece of electrical wire for the connection of your lights, and you're drilling there, and you end up with the power failure, or fire damage claim. Could be any of that. Which obviously will then be considered under your, like I said again, you can get a claim for your section 1 if it's fire. You can get a claim for third party. If that fire spreads over to your neighbor, you can have that kind of scenario. And like I said, you can also have the surrounding property where to your left is a couch, a leather couch. And because of that fire breaks out to the left and yeah, causes damage to the couch. So that's just the examples of surrounding property claims. As I said, the first one was just again an example of a construction site accident, which we know can happen anytime, anywhere, any day. Just depends on what the site conditions are like, and the safety concerns on site. So it's important to maintain that. Okay. So just an interesting fact, some top causes of losses for businesses in South Africa. As you can see there, the source was Allianz Global Corporate and Specialty, based on the analysis of 2,187 insurance industry claims worth approximately 1.2 billion pound between 2013 and 2018. Just to give you an idea, you can see that again, faulty workmanship and maintenance is by value um, is one of the highest. And then by number, you'd look at water damage. That's your highest percentages over there. So in terms of your faulty workmanship and maintenance, top cause of loss to Africa when the large events do occur, such as those involving expensive production and equipment in oil or gas sector, which means it can't be used. Insignificant financial losses can ensure. Fire is the second major cause of loss, accounting for almost a quarter of the value of all claims. So what this means to me is that the faulty workmanship or product, it could be product as well, or the maintenance. It's important that you get your skilled guys out there, your qualified guys out there, your contractors to do the work for you. As you can see, with the results, it's quite clear that we still have a lot of unskilled contractors doing the complex work as such, if you want to put it that way. And it's important for us to maybe upskill them, to get programs to upskill them. To improve I want to say to just improve the general overall contractors so that we can have lesser of maybe the faulty workmanship, but it will always be there. I mean, it's accidental, and that's why we're in the business to ensure as well. So before I go to the questions, I think it's important that we maybe get Knox involved so that she can maybe discuss the importance of a broker to us, especially during obviously with the engineering and specifically to your role as a business and what type of insurance covers that you need. Let's open the floor. If Knox is available, let's get her on board.
I'm here. Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed today, this early morning. So just by way of an introduction, my name is Natsumini. I run an insurance brokerage by the name of Zonrisk. We operate across the short-term insurance space, but we specialize in the built environment. So we know exactly your landscape, and we're able to offer you solutions to assist you, as Peter has been explaining. So I'm thoroughly excited to be talking to these brilliant women in plumbing, shattering glass ceilings in a previously male-dominated space, because I am the woman in insurance doing exactly the same in my field. So I don't have a lot of time. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I'm just going to talk through about 4 quick, important roles that a broker plays in your life so that you understand why we keep insisting that you need to go through a broker. All right, so the first one is evening the playing field. Engineering, insurance, as Peter has been explaining, is a highly specialized field of insurance. You're businesswomen, you're in the field, you're specialists in your own rights, but you're not insurance specialists. So those knowledge and power dynamics between the insurance companies and you guys as plumbers must be leveled up. And a broker who's an expert in that particular sphere is an invaluable partner to have. And of course, I'm an expert in the built environment. 8 years of my career was spent at the biggest engineering insurance firm, working on insurance solutions across Africa. So I'm able to cater to your needs. The second one is an insurance broker really acts as your agent, right? And that means We act on behalf of the client. And there's a misconception that exists that if you now use this professional, you have to pay more. And it's actually exactly the opposite. Your cover actually won't be more expensive because we know the best rates. We work across the markets, so we know what the going rates are. We're able to negotiate. So my job really is to call like Peter and make sure that every single one of my clients from the South African women in plumbing gets absolutely the best rates in the market, right? And the third one really, which is probably the most important one, is advice. That is the crux of the role of a broker. We'll walk through and talk through your risks and exposures with you. We perform that thorough needs analysis so that you don't have to now sit down and go, okay, where do I even start? Peter's been explaining this cover to me, but where do I actually start? What is the right level of cover for me? Your broker is supposed to walk through those risks with you and talk you through everything. Thereafter, we source and recommend the right solutions to assist you with taking care of your business. Because as we're sitting here, no two businesses are going to be the same, right? So we need to make sure that we get tailor-made cover to assist you and get the right level of cover for you. And your business changes, right? And throughout all those changes, I'm really there to check in with you and make sure that, listen, are you still happy with the level of cover? You know, we got that large contract. How about we increase this? If we're working on this particular site with that R1 million Picasso, is our surrounding property level sufficient, right? And then lastly, and I don't think this is least important, but support. You know, a claim scenario can really be devastating. You need that voice of calm, of reason to assure you that the matter is being handled. And you can direct any unpleasant correspondence to your broker so you don't have to deal with it. And you know that there's a qualified professional dealing with it for you. Okay. And then beyond the specialist arena that we've been talking about, as brokers, we work across the short-term insurance spectrum. So we're able to look after you and your business as a whole and not just your works. And I mean, with the organization's permission, I'll share our business profile so that you can see exactly everything that we do and what we can assist you with. So I'm really looking forward to building relationships with a lot of you and assisting you with your insurance requirements. And I think, Peter, you have my contact details on one of your slides so that everyone can reach me if they need to.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Knox. And I've actually just added your, well, not added, but I'm just actually showing the slide. I think let's open up the floor for any questions that anyone might have. And as you said, yeah, then we look forward to receiving your questions, your inquiries. If there's anything directly for Knox or anything directly to me, you're more than welcome to give us a shout. Yeah, let's open the floor. We've got some time for questions.
There is one question here that says, will public liability insurance cover cost of a geyser replacement after the geyser fell down days after being mounted on the wall?
So in terms of that's for me. So in terms of the insurance policy, what happens is there's two scenarios to this. So the first one will be once you've commissioned that geyser and you walk off site and you've signed off, and you know, we as insurers then automatically come off risk. However, if you've got a separate maintenance policy or warranty policy in place with your client, that unfortunately is going to then be called up, and that will be where it's between yourself as the contractor, again, your employer or your principal. So that unfortunately won't be covered. However, the other scenario would be if it is, you know, a defective workmanship, something that happened in terms of a snag during the time of construction, and you go back and you fix the geyser, or you know, you work on that geyser and then something happens where that geyser falls off, yeah, then we as insurers will definitely be on risk and we will then cover that. So there is a few, it's very technical, high level stuff, but that's why Noxie is there to guide you through certain claims processes. But just to give you a high level answer, once it's commissioned, then be off risk, no. However, if it happens during the time where you go back and you do your maintenance period, because our policy is extended to do your give you a maintenance period of 3 months, 1 month, 6 months, depending on your length of your contract and what you're going to be doing, we will definitely consider that as a claim under that portion of extension. Yeah. but
Thank you
not
very much.
under public liability. I mean, the question was under public liability, but not. Again, should that geyser fall onto a vehicle whilst you're performing your work? Yes, then yeah, we might have a claim under public liability whilst you're still on site and nothing has been signed off yet. So that's, like I said, it's another, probably a third part of a possible claim.
Cool. Thank you very much. Anything you'd like to add on, Steve, before we close off?
Yeah, I think I just want to reiterate what Noct was saying. I think, when you have an incident on site and you're not a professional, we're professional plumbers. And when it starts getting outside of our scope of works, you can imagine we've all been there where, we've created damage or a flood or whatever. And the amount of correspondence and stress that comes with trying to deal with that. And I think in my experience, having a broker in place where, look, there's a problem and it gets handed over to the professionals, and the manner in which they do it takes, a hell of a lot of stress off us, knowing that we've got somebody there that's in our corner, if I can put it that way, to be able to take that and to be able to appease and deal with it in the correct manner. I think sometimes I've seen plumbers that have been put in positions because they're not, au fait with, the procedures, et cetera, and sometimes doing stuff that they shouldn't have. So I think I'd just like to reiterate what Knox is saying. And, just to make sure we have the professionals in our corner. We don't know everything about everything. And that's why we have people like Peter and Knox, to be out there, to be able to assist and guide us and be part of our team. So I just want to thank Peter and Knox for the time that you guys have taken. We'd love to have you back. In terms of maybe going through a few more details, Knox, if you're available, just to come in again and just, let's go through these scenarios and maybe unpack the details of exactly, where we are and what we do. So thank you very much. Really informative.
Thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we'll definitely be back. And then I'm sure we'll take you guys up on an offer. And yeah, and please throw at us some scenarios, possibles, as I said, so we can obviously come out and give you insurance a point of view and how our policy would respond, and also assist you. And like you said, Steve, be in your corner. So yeah, again, from myself and Knox, thank you so much, guys. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that there will be a recording on the LMS system in case you missed anything, and it will be up by 12 o'clock today. Thank you very much and have a blessed week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you.